Hey, you guys, today we're going to talk about the five themes of geography and how understanding the themes of geography will help us understand a place that we are studying. Geography is the study of where people, places, and things are located and then how they relate to each other. You are going to get the basics in this screencast, and then you are going to choose a location to analyze according to the five themes of geography. The first theme is location, and location answers the question, where is it on the Earth's surface? And we can look at that with both absolute location and relative location. Absolute location is going to be using latitude and longitude. We don't use that a lot in our everyday talk, but when you are a geographer, latitude and longitude is important to understand. So if we were talking about where Harrisburg is, we could potentially give the latitude and longitude coordinates to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The equator is a line of latitude, and it divides the globe into the northern and southern hemispheres. The prime meridian is a longitude line that divides the globe into the western and eastern hemispheres. Relative location is really what we use in our everyday vernacular. So we describe locations based on what's around them. So, what are the bordering states, the bordering countries? Whose house do they live near? What Turkey Hill are they close to? We use relative location a lot. The second theme is place, and place tells us what it is like there. And this can be both physical or naturally occurring, or human, which are the things that humans put there, characteristics. So, some examples of physical characteristics would be the animals that are native to the area, the climate, the landforms, the resources, anything that occurs there naturally. Human characteristics is when we're going to talk about what people have done or do there. So, what are the buildings like? What kind of businesses are there? What kind of transportations? Are there roads? Are there airports? Are there train tracks? Anything that people do to a place would be a human characteristic. Movement deals with the question of basically how your location is connected to other places. And when we talk about movement, we talk about movement of people, goods, and ideas. And really, those three things tend to occur together. None of them really happen alone. So, people, whether it is permanent, moving from one country to another to set up residence like immigrants do, or just simple traveling around the world, people are constantly moving. Trade is the movement of goods. We have exports that we send to other places, and then we have imports that we bring into our country. And then as you have movement of goods and people, you have the spread of ideas. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about culture change and how cultures influence each other. One important concept that will be a recurring theme in our class is interdependence. Um, None of us can do it alone. We all rely on other parts of the world, whether it's for goods, supplies, knowledge, help during a crisis. There is a great deal of interdependence in the world. The next theme is interaction, commonly called interaction between humans and their environment. And we'll talk about interaction in terms of how people interact with their environment. So, how do they change the world around them? And we know people make lots of changes to the world around them. Um, if they want to build a house, you may have to clear down some trees. If you want to build a railroad that goes across the country, you may have to blast some tunnels through mountains. We do all kinds of things to change our environment. Sometimes we have to adapt to our environment. We can't create more farmable space, so we might use terrace farming. If we have houses along the shore, we might build them up on stilts or up on a higher level so that they are less likely to be flooded out. So the things that we cannot change, we have to adapt to. Very often, there are costs associated with our interaction. We call those hidden costs. And some good examples would be when we build factories or transportation systems that create air pollution or water pollution. When we cut down too many trees and we have soil erosion, which can lead to landslides. So we have to be careful with how we change the, the earth. The final theme of geography is region, and region just basically defines location. So we can define a location in terms of physical features, cultural, economic, political, and I have some examples of all of those. So, physical characteristics, the Sahara Desert, the Rocky Mountains, the Alleghenies. Those would be examples of physical characteristics that you could use to define a location. Cultural characteristics. So when we talk about the Middle East isn't really a specific region with real clear borders. But when we talk about the Middle East, we know we're talking about a certain part of the world that has a good deal of culture in common. We talk about the South in the United States as a cultural region. They have a different dialect. There's some different characteristics versus, say, New England, which also has a bit of a dialect. So those are cultural characteristics. Political characteristics usually refer to the borders of countries, the borders of states. They're pretty clearly defined when we talk about political characteristics. And then economic characteristics are basically what business takes place there. So, depending on where it is, we talk about the breadbasket, or we talk about Silicon Valley. Those would be examples of economic regions. So now your job is, and you can do this by yourself or you can work with a partner, and that includes if you're at your house and your partner is at their house, you can use Google to share a doc. Make some kind of a graphic organizer, Google slide presentation of any place you want. It can be a country, it can be a state. You can get real specific. I think you might want to leave it a little bit broader to give yourself, some options. I have a graphic organizer that is linked there that can really help get you started. But you want to use pictures, words to explain your themes. Show that you understand the themes and how they relate to your selected location.